All right, as you can see on the screen here, we have 4 things we want to do today. First, we want to push that website out to GitHub, and that'll also allow me to explain basic Git commands, what you need to know. There's a lot of other stuff you can do with Git, but most of the stuff that we're not going to go over has to do with if either A, you're working with other people and you want to share stuff, or B, somebody else has put something out on GitHub and you want to grab it, make a copy of it so you can put it back out on GitHub and ask if you can basically update what they've done. We're not going to go through that stuff. After that, we're going to go through and we're going to build a short application. The actual HTML in there that we add is probably about 20 lines. But then we're going to add some CSS to it. It's going to be an introduction into responsive website design. Then we'll go over Chapter 8, and then we're going to take a look at the homework and the labs. All right? So what I'd like you to do, unless you're still out there from yesterday, and I don't know, but I'd like you to go out to github.com. All right? And hopefully what you have out there from yesterday, all right, so if I go in, well, we did make that one yesterday. I know we did. We called it MPG, right? So I can always check. So if I go in and try to put in a new repository and I type in MPG, it says it already exists. See that? Well, so what do I want? I want to be able to come in, and there's a way to do that here. I don't remember what it is, but we'll figure it out. So otherwise, I'll just come in here and I'll go to JP Scott Rankin /MPG. All right, and there it is. Okay, and hopefully if you do the same, you can bring this up from yesterday. Now, we're not going to do it exactly this way, but I want to explain the commands that are shown here. All right, the important thing for you to have is going to be this. I mentioned this to you yesterday. That is the address out on the internet, or basically out on the cloud, whatever you want to call it, where your project lives. All right. And when you look in here, this just is going to give you, if you wanted to do so, you can make a README file. We don't care. But what we're going to do in just a minute is we're going to go back to our desktop. We are going to open up our folder that was named MPG, the one that we created yesterday. In fact, let's do that right now. I'm going to bounce back and forth between this stuff. So here is our MPG folder from yesterday, okay? You should have a similar one. Again, if you called it something else, that's no big thing. But what I want you to do is double click on that folder to open it. All right? This is what you should see in there. Yours should look, if not identical, at least very similar. I'm not going to open up the CSS or the images or the JS folder. There's no sense in doing that. All right? Now, what we want to do is we want to run some basic Git commands. There's different ways that you can do this. I'm going to show you what I consider to be the easiest way, the most intuitive way, rather than, again, showing you a bunch of ways, and I'll pick one. All right? So the easiest way that I found to do this is when you're in your folder like this, look on the screen, is to right mouse click at some empty place in the folder and tell me, when you do this, is there anybody that does not see Git bash here? So I right mouse clicked. Do you see Git bash here when you do that? Okay, everybody does. So just click where it says Git bash here, and it brings up what's called a command window. Now it looks very similar to yesterday when I asked you to type in CMD. And believe it or not, you can actually do it that way too. But it's harder to do it that way, in my opinion. All right, and this shows me where I am. I'm in my desktop, MPG. Now, the other stuff that's in there, JP Scott desktop, those numbers, yours are probably different. I don't know what that is, and I don't care. All right? But look on my screen, please. Would you all agree that right now, I don't have a folder up there named Git? Would you all agree with that? You don't either. All right? So right now, you can type this in if you want to. It's going to give you an error, and don't worry about it. But if I asked what my Git status is, right now, It says fatal. You don't have a repository, so you don't have any status. Remember, Git is on our machine. GitHub is out in the cloud, on the internet, whatever you want to say. So what we have to do is we have to give it some status. So what I'd like you to type in then is git space init. All of these commands should be in all lowercase. All right, git space init and hit enter. Now, not only does it initialize it as it says, but look up on the screen. Hopefully you see that as well. You've now got a .git folder in there. All right, don't play with that folder. Don't look at it. Don't touch it. It's the way that the system is going to be able to communicate between Git and GitHub. It's not that you can't look at it, but what you don't want to do is screw up the stuff that's in there. Okay, now please look on the screen again, everybody. I can use again that DOS key in here, so my up arrow. And the reason I'm showing you that is I am going to use it now, because now look. Now if I type in git status, remember before when I did it, it said fatal because I did not have a repository. Now look what it does. It says I got all this stuff in here. It says you've got an about.html, you've got a contact.html, you've got an index.html, and you've got an MPG.html. In addition, you've got a CSS folder with something probably in it. You've got an image folder probably with something in it. So it's letting me know all of that stuff. Notice it says this stuff is ready, but it has not yet been what's called committed. We're going to do that shortly. All right, we're going to do that shortly. Now, if I go back to here and I show you this again, so we just did the git init. Now, next, they say to do this. Now, please don't follow their instructions. All right? This one would be okay, but we're going to type in this, git space commit space -m. You'll see it on my machine in just a second. And then in double quotes, you put a message. If it is your initial commit, most people put in initial commit. And it's kind of important that really every time you go and update whatever you're working on, you give it a different message. I mean, I know people who say commit number 1, commit number 2, commit number 3. I wouldn't do that. In fact, what a lot of people will do is they'll put in initial commit. Now, let's say later we go back and we discover that we were missing an image, okay? Or we add a new image or whatever. Then my message might be something like added new image. I like to put a descriptive message in there because it lets me see what Git is. What we're doing right now is we're versioning our software. So in other words, we are now about to create version 1 of our website and push it up to the internet. And if we made a change to it, it would then be version 2 that we would push out to the internet. Does that all make sense? All right. So we've done that. We're ready to do this. All right. So where we all are here, we can all say this. And if you want to clear your screen at any time, you just type in clear. That's it. If I don't remember a command, I can always do this. Again, use my up arrow key, etc. All right. Now, what I want to do then is a git space. Now, don't do this yet. If I typed in this, if I typed in git commit -m, don't do this, and I typed in first commit, I'd probably get an error message telling me I didn't have anything. Those files right now, would you agree when you looked at them on my screen, they were red? That means they're ready to be what's called staged. And files have to be staged before they can be committed. All right. Again, this is just the way this product works. So everybody, please type in git space. All right. If we do a git status right now, git status, notice what it says. You have no commits yet, but you have things that right now are untracked, so they're ready for you to basically stage them so they can be committed. Now, let's pretend that the only one of these in here we wanted to add was about.html. You with me? We don't want to add the rest of them, just that one. Then we would say git space, add space, and we give it that name, the name of the file. We want to add everything. That's a lot to add, so there's a shortcut. You can all do this now. Git space, add space, dot. Just a period. Git space, add space, dot. And hit enter. Now, you may or may not get the same warning I've got. Okay? What this warning means, it says LF, which means line feed, will be replaced with CRLF, which means carriage return line feed, and it's because different packages handle you hitting the enter key differently. Some of them call it a line feed, some of them call it a carriage return line feed. It's not a big thing. It's just something that the software does. So if you see that, don't let it throw you, because it's really not going to hurt anything. All right? Now, if I come back and type in Git Status again, you saw when I did it the first time, it said no commits yet, untracked files, and I know it doesn't show that well, but you should be able to see it on your screen. They were red. But if I do a Git Status now, you'll notice there's still no commits, but they're green. That means they're staged. That means you have something to commit. Does that make sense? All right. So now we can come in here and we can do our git space commit space -m and first commit. All right. Now, one thing about this, just so you know, it's not a big thing, but I want to say this to you. And that is, you know, some of you have already told me I'm not a good speller. Well, to my knowledge, once you put this in, you put a message in there, I don't think you can go back in and change it. There may be a way to do it, but I don't know how it is. I've never investigated that. So I put in here git space commit space -m, like Mary, space, then in double quotes, first commit. Everybody still with me? All right, then I'm going to hit enter. Now, there's not that much in here. If you were building a really, really, really complex project, this could take a while. All right? And when I say a while, I'm talking about a few seconds as opposed to going like that. All right? Now, notice if, again, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to do another git status. I'm not hitting enter because I want you to see what's happened as we've gone through this. Now it says on branch master, nothing to commit. I've got a question. Does yours say on branch master or does yours say on branch main? Yours says master. Okay. There's a big thing about this. And when I give you the command to actually push it up, my command that I give you may not work. You might have to change it. I'll tell you how to change it. But there's a big thing in our age of political correctness. All right, I don't know if the people from Git tried to get ahead of the game or if somebody complained, but somebody did complain about the word master. They didn't like it. So Git has changed it from master to main, M-A-I-N. All right, because evidently it had, you know, that negative connotation to it. All right, so when I jump back here now, so we have now done this. Now look on the screen here, please. Don't do this. This git branch -m main. When would you ever use that? Let's say that you're working on this and you want a copy of it. So you want to literally go out and grab a copy that we're about to push out to the internet, but you don't want the original. Why would you want to do that? Well, either you're going to do some stuff and you have no idea if it'll work, or somebody else could put in this command too if this was a public repository and they could look at your stuff. Since you all made yours private, that's not going to work. They're not going to be able to go into your repository because it's private. But mine, they could. And when they do that, there's a whole big thing. I'm not going to go through this with you, but it's called forking, all right, that you can do. Now, let's pretend for a minute that, you know, it's like, okay, well, at least this is kind of interesting, okay? You don't have to do this, but if you want to, you can. I'm going to type this in right now. There's a gentleman named Colt Steel. Colt like a pony. Steel. Steele. And I may have shown this to you guys last year. I don't remember if I did or not. But he's got a thing on Git. Learn Git in 15 minutes. He's also got one, learn GitHub in 20 minutes. So if you want more than what I'm giving you, just go out to YouTube rather, and put in Colt Steel Git or Colt Steel GitHub. All right. A lot of it's going to be what I've already shown you. Okay. All right. Yes.
You told us to get commit. Should it be still right after that?
No. It should be git space commit space -m space with a message.
Right.
And then after you do that and you type in git status, it should not be read any longer. And I have no idea why that would happen.
Make sure you did git add period.
Yeah. Yes, you have to add them first. You had to do that git space add space period.
Did that here.
Okay. You didn't put a space between the add and the period.
Oh.
You have to.
Oh.
Because otherwise it thinks the name of the command is add period.
Oh.
So just come in there and just go through it again. So type in git space add space period. All right, now do your git commit. You don't even have to type it in again. You can't hit your up arrow key here. See that? Now hit it. All right, now you're with everybody else.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, jumping back again to here, what's left? This one's important. Look on the screen, please. You can type it in yourselves, but I'd recommend that instead you copy it from here. What this is doing, this git remote add origin, you want this one. What that is doing is it is now doing the syncing, and it's saying, hey, when you go and push this from Git to GitHub, which is what we're about to do, all right, this is where we want to push it to. Does that make sense to everyone? You can manually type it in, but if you're like me, I'd screw it up. So I'm going to just highlight it. Whoops, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to highlight it and right mouse click on it and choose copy, or however you do a copy. It doesn't really matter. Then I'm going to go into here. Now, I'm going to clear so you can see what I'm doing. But just so you know, you can't just do a Control V to paste like most of us probably do. You've got to right mouse click and then choose paste. Yours will look different than mine because yours does not have JP Scott Rankin on it. All right, but hopefully other than that, yours looks at least fairly similar to a lot like mine. All right, you hit enter. Wow, nothing happened. All right, but you can check to make sure it works. And I want to mention this to you. What I did this morning was I sent everybody these commands. So I sent you this command list. Now with you two right here, Michael and Mason, for some reason, you guys, when I go to my contacts list, you guys are not in the contacts yet. But I'm trying to send you guys email. If you're not getting it, let me know. Okay. All right. So I'm not sure. Donald is in, but you two aren't in. But he registered before you did. And I'm hoping that you guys are in there too fairly soon so I can update the address book. But there's the Git version. There's the setup we did. So we did all this yesterday. There's the Git init we did today. There's the Git add dot. There's the Git commit. There's the Git remote that we just did. So we're going to put in this command right now. And I'll put it in, just don't worry about it. So it's Git space remote space -V, like victory. Hit enter. Yours will be different than mine. Yours should be the same address that you just put in right there. All right. So what that's letting us know, and you look in there and you got fetch and push. What the heck is a fetch and a push? if you are trying to grab something from GitHub, you're fetching it. If you are trying to send something to GitHub, you are pushing it. Does that make sense? Yes.
How do you do the copy information? The copy and paste
Okay.
for the CMD.
From right in here, I highlighted, wherever that was, from github.com, I highlighted that line.
Right.
And then I right mouse clicked on it and chose copy.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I went back to here, and you can't do a control V because it puts in a weird thing with a V on it. You've got to right mouse click and choose paste.
Oh.
And again, if you do that and you hit enter, okay, if you do that and you hit enter, and if you just get your basically this back, okay, it worked. If you want to test it, you can do a git space remote space minus V. Now we're almost done. There's literally 2 more steps to go, and we're done with this. So I'm going to jump back for just a second into Git, and this is the step they say. Now, when I do this step, it doesn't work. I've got to put master here. You may have to put main here. You may have to put master here. I don't know why that is. But I've had students who've had to do it both ways. So what I'm going to do, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this. It's not much to type in. All right. And even if you're not a great typist. So, and if you look here, just so you know, you can hold down on the control key and you can use your mouse wheel and make this bigger. Probably should have done that before because it's easier for you to see now. All right. Now, I've got a question for you. Don't type this in yet. Yours right here, does yours say master or does yours say main? Master. You may have to put in master. You may have to put in main. And I'll tell you what, if I were you, try main first. Doesn't work? All right, try master. Like that, and hit enter. If you start getting that stuff that looks similar to this, guess what? Basically, it's just about done.
Send me a GitHub sign-in. Is that because
okay, if you get a GitHub sign-in, then what's happened is it wants you to log back in again. There's been a lapse in activity, so they just want you to log back in again. That may or may happen at different points while you're using this.
So I just need to authorize it, I guess, for credentials or something?
Yeah, I think they're going to probably ask you to put in your login and or your password again. I don't know why they do that. That's one weird thing, because I don't think there's anything special about my GitHub account versus yours. I've never been asked to do that. But I've had students before who've told me that they've been asked to do that. All right? It has something to do with inactivity, and I'm not sure what it is. All right? Now, is everybody caught up? Because there's only one more thing to do. Literally. I want you then to go back to GitHub like this. We're right here, correct? Hit your refresh button that's right here. Hit this button. It's right here. It looks kind of like a half circle. Just click it. Did yours change like this? You now have your first GitHub repository. Congratulations. Yes.
I probably should have mentioned this before, but I have a weird file in my MPG folder called VS Code.
Oh, that's a code setting that Visual Studio Code put in. Now, that's a good point, because remember when we talked, when we first did this and we had that git ignore file that we could have put in? That's probably one you would have put in there. It's not going to hurt anything to put it in. It really won't. The problem is, what happens is, if you in the third semester, when you take the AW, and you'll all be in that hopefully, in fall of next year, when you start creating projects, we're literally going to be creating our own e-commerce site. All right? And there might be hundreds of pictures and all sorts of other stuff in there. When you start putting everything in the world in there, including stuff you don't need, the file goes from this big to this big in a hurry. And when I'm saying that, it's many more orders of magnitude than this to this. And what happens next semester when we use Node is you have to bring in a package, what's called a package. So it's software from out on the internet. The problem is when you bring in that package, it brings in all the packages that package depends on, and all the packages that package, etc., forever. And it can go from a few K to several meg to even more several gig in a hurry. And when you're trying to load that thing out onto the internet, it's going to take some time. And most people will wait 3 seconds for something to happen, and if it doesn't, they assume it doesn't work and they stop. All right? Now, just so you know, if you look right here, you don't actually come in and edit any of this, but you can click about.html and there's your file. So you actually can take a look at that stuff. I think you can even go into your CSS folder and there's styles. You can do that. Now, I'm not going to run through this with you. I don't want to confuse anybody, but if we went in and we made a change, maybe we should try that because it actually might help. So let's do this. And here's one place, Michael, if you want, you can remove that file. All right. So let's come in here. Let's go back in here, into here, and let's go into our about.html file. Okay, everybody with me? Let's just open up our about.html file. So let's open that file up. You don't even have to open the folder up. I'm just going to open up the file in code. So I'm right here. All right. And I'm going to change this from about to about me. All right. If you don't like that, how about us? Like that. We had contact us. So here we're going to say about us. Okay. So we really haven't, would you agree? We haven't really made a big change. All right. But save. And then we can close this. So why did I have you do that? It's like, that was a waste. No, it wasn't. All right, because look on the screen if you would. I want you to follow me here. So let me clear. Now, let's talk about what we don't have to do again. All right? So, we again, coming back to the top, you don't have to do that git minus version anymore. The only time you want to do that is A, when you install it the first time to make sure it installed, and B, if you happen to have it installed already and you upgrade it. Other than that, you should never really have to run that command. This command basically is letting GitHub know, Git and GitHub, I think, the name of the person associated with this account and their primary email. I will tell you, this summer, I tried to tape a bunch of stuff because I was going to send it to you guys to make it easier. I went in and tried to create another GitHub account. That was a cluster, you know what. It screwed up my first GitHub account. I had to literally work for 2 weeks with GitHub support every night to do this. Nothing was working. All right? I don't know why. Now, we don't have to do a git init because you only have to do that once to get that .git folder. So we don't have to do that. All right? But coming back here, you can all do this now. Now look, notice what happens if we do a git status. Whoops. Status. Well, look what it's telling us. This file has not been staged for commit. Meaning this one file right here, this one, has been changed. All right? And that's the only thing that we have right there. Now notice it says use git add file ... to update will be committed. And notice it says git restore. If we wanted to basically throw those changes away, we could do that. But I'm going to try it this way. So I'm going to say git space add space and the name of the file, which is about.html. I could have tried it like this to make sure, but I don't think it matters. You can put that into quotes if you want to. Single or double quotes. I didn't try it, but I don't think it hurts to do that. But I didn't even have to say a dot because it's just the one file. If there were multiple files, the dot really should still work. Now, notice again, I'm going to do another git status. All right, and notice what it says. It says your branch is up to date, but you've got a modification in here. So jumping back again to here, well, we don't have to do this git remote. That's already been set. We don't have to do the git remote -v. That hasn't been set. But we do have to do the commit. So we're going to commit it right now. And again, I'm saying this, I believe you're all smart people in here, okay? But I'm going to clear this. And don't do this. Don't do a git commit -m and say first commit. Don't do that because you already have one of those. All right, so I'm going to come in here and say, you don't have to put the number in, but I'm going to say second commit changed about.html file, like that. If you think that's too much, too long of a comment, you can just say, it should be changed, past tense, not present, changed about.html file. You can put any comment in there you want. The problem is what some people do is they just put fix this. Literally, they put stuff in there like that. Then somebody else goes and makes a copy of what they did, and they don't have any idea looking at the comment what happened. But there's good news, and I'm going to show you that in just a second. So once you do that, hit enter, and it's telling me one file was changed. No, it's one file changed, one file inserted, one file deleted. So the file that was changed is about.html. The file that's going to be inserted is about.html, the new one. The file that's deleted is about.html, the old one. Does that all make sense? All right. So now I'm going to go back and find my git push like this. All right. And I'm going to hit enter. And that took even less time because there was only one file. Make sense? I'm taking for granted that if any of you are falling behind, you're going to raise your hand and ask. All right. So now, when I go back into GitHub, what do? Well, look on the screen. I'm going to refresh this again. And I might have to go back because I jumped over to my CSS. Now notice, first commit, second commit. It shows me where that commit was. It's even better than that. I'm going to highlight this and hit enter. Where is it? Come on, where are you? Container, website. There is a way that I can go back and kind of do a diff on these, and it'll show me in green the word us. So it's showing me that that's what I added. And if something is removed, it'll show that in red. Does that make sense? Not sure. I thought it did it just from what I showed you, but evidently it doesn't. So when you look in here, it tells me, if you look, that I committed. It sure seems to be ahead. I don't think that was 20 minutes ago. But it says we did all this stuff 21 minutes ago, but this was just 2 minutes ago. All right. So if I think I can do this. Where it says second commit, that's where I think I click. There you go. See this? So it's showing me that it used to say about, and it now says about us. Now, as they say, that's fine, but who cares? Well, let's say that your computer breaks. All right? And you got to borrow somebody else's for the weekend, as an example. All right, it's getting fixed. Now what you can do is you can come in. You've already seen this, believe it or not, because I've done it before. You can go to code right here on your own thing. You don't have to do this. But you can go to code, you can download the zip, and now you've got a copy of everything. So if you needed to work on this on another machine or whatever, or whatever happened to happen. Okay? That's what I teach you about Git and GitHub. I think that's enough to get by, with the exception of one last thing. All right. Again, this is the email that I gave you. All right. We've literally gone over every bit of this, every bit. We've gone over it and done some of them twice. So what's left? Well, this thing you might never have to use. But if for some reason that version that we set up before, where we copied that line from GitHub, let's say that you left off the I in git, .git. You typed it in yourself, you typed .gt. So it said it, but it's wrong. That's the command you can put in there to reset it. And you'd put in here the right one. Does that make sense? If you copy it and you copy it completely, that should never be an issue. All right. But this one, so I'm going to actually bring this one up. And I don't know with you two from last semester, I don't know if this is the one you used, if you figured it out yourself, I don't know. But this shows you, it says invite collaborators. I'm your collaborator. So when you get done with stuff, you are to send me an invite and JP Scott Rankin. Does that make sense? So when you do homework, it's only available to you. If you don't send me an invite, I can't grade it. All right, I want to grade it so I can put points in for you. All right, they do explain in here, and this is actually from docs.github.com. So this is not my stuff. So give it a read. It's not super long. I mean, if you want, I can print you each out a copy if you really want one. But most people today are just okay by reading it online. If you want me to print you out a copy, let me know. I'll print you out one. I don't care. All right. So we go back and look at this. We've now done this. Everybody agree? We pushed our website out to GitHub. We went over the basic Git commands. So let's jump into number 2. Yes.
What was that last DMC code? It was git push to.
When we pushed it,
when you changed the file,
then we ran this: git space push space -u space origin space master. Let me clear it, and I'll bring the command. There it is. It's right up on the screen here.
I'm getting an error.
All right, we'll take a look because we're going to take a break in a couple of minutes. All right, but what I want us to do is I want us to set everything up for this, what we're about to write. Okay, and for the first time, I put this in there, and you might say why. You'll understand when we do it. We're going to put a JavaScript folder in here. We're actually going to write a JavaScript function. You can see how big it is. And the reason that we're doing this is I want you to be able to change your screen size. And when you change the screen size, the color of your screen is going to change, the background color. And there's going to be a button on there. When you click the button, it's going to tell you what the current width is of your screen size. That's what this little function does. So we're simulating using other devices here. That's what I'm telling you. All right. So we're not going to do anything else with Git and GitHub today. So if you want to get out of that, you stay in there. We'll go over it during the break. But I want to set everything up first. All right. So I'm going to come in here. You know the drill by now. Let me move this stuff out of the way. All right. So I'm going to right mouse click, choose new folder. You can just start up a new occurrence of code and add a new folder and do it like that. All right. For some reason, sometimes that works weird for me. Okay. So I'm going to call mine. I think I've already got one. Yeah, I've got one called RWD. So I'm going to call this RWD example. You can call it whatever you want. You are not turning this in. I will recommend right now that when you are creating directories, file names, etc., do not put blank spaces in them. So don't say RWD space example. Run it together. All right. With certain software, if you put blank spaces in, it'll choke. If you do it like this, it shouldn't. I don't care if this is uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. All right. So we've got RWD example. I'm going to double click on it. You've seen me do this before. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right mouse click, new folder. I'm going to put in a CSS folder. All right. Right mouse click, new folder. I'm going to put in a JS folder. Now, again, I'm not trying to do this quickly, but hopefully this is becoming kind of second nature to you. All right. 2 more things to do. First thing, you've seen me do this before. Right mouse click it in an empty area here, new text document. I'm going to make my index.html. So that's the first thing. Yes, I want to change the extension. So now I've got that. And I lied to you. I said 2 more things. There's 3 more. Next, I'm going to double click on my JS folder right there. And I'm going to do the same kind of thing, but I'm going to right mouse click, new text document, and you can call it whatever you want, but I called mine script, S-C-R-I-P-T, .js for JavaScript. The student actually asked me once, does that stand for Jeff Scott? Yeah, right. All right. So script.js. Make sure that's under your JS folder. All right. Then finally, I'm going to go back up, and under my CSS folder, we could put a reset in here, but this is a really simple example, so you really don't need one. If you want to get used to using one, go ahead and grab that one or make your own. Maybe we'll do that. We'll just make our own. All right. So in here, I'm going to right mouse click, choose new text document, and I'm going to put in here. And again, you can call this whatever you want, but a real common name is just either style.css or styles.css. That's just a common name. Do you have to call it that? No. I mean, you could call it ralph.css, but typically people call it because it's a generic name and we're putting in styles. All right. So now I've got that in there. Yes, I again want to change that. All right. We're going to, because we have time, literally, the amount of code that we'll type in ourselves for this, for the HTML file, there's about 10 lines. That's it. And it's going to look stupid when you see this before we put the CSS in. It's going to look dumb, just so you know. So I'm going to now close this, and I'm going to open my RWD example folder with code by right mouse clicking on it and choose Open with Code. All right. And there it is in all of its glory. You don't have to do this, but again, I can double check now. I can click the right pointing arrow, and it shows I've got styles.css. I can click the right pointing arrow in JS, and it says I've got script. That's good. I want to go to index.html. You know this because we've done this several times already. I'm going to put in my exclamation point and hit tab. That's the first thing I'm going to do. All right. I have to make literally 3 changes into my head section. The first is I don't like that name. So I'm going to put in here responsive website design example. Now that's kind of a long title, but it's very much explains what this is going to be about. So that's the first thing I'm going to put in. Then I'm going to hit enter here, and I'm going to type in the word link, L-I-N-K, and hit the tab key. All right. So now I can come in and say CSS/ there's my styles file. You can keep typing, or you can just click on it. Whatever. And there's probably other ways. All right. One more thing we want to do is we want to put in our script tag for that scripts file. So I'm going to type in script, and I'm going to hit tab. All right. Now I've got to modify this a little bit. Modify the beginning one. Never, ever, ever put anything in an ending tag. So we're going to say here, source equals JS/ and there's our script.js file. And after that, we're going to put in the word defer. Don't worry about what that means. We'll spend a lot of time actually talking about that when we get to the JavaScript part. So this is what yours should look like right now. All right, is that a big enough font, Nick? Can you see that okay from where you are? Okay. Because I know there's a way I can go into my settings and change my font size. So what's new here, we changed the title. We added a link to our CSS file. We added a link to our JavaScript file. Now, you don't have to do this. What I'm about to show you, you don't have to do this. Sometimes people like to make sure before they get started. So I can come into my styles.css file here. You don't have to do this. And I can say body, background, red. Okay, just like that. I'm going to get rid of this in just a minute. But if I go back to my index.html file now, and I open it with live server, it's red. So I know that my CSS file, I know it's talking to my HTML file. All right? And I can remove that now. I don't need this anymore. All right? But the other thing I can do is I can open up my JS file. This is what we did the other day. And I can say, alert, hello. Okay? Save that. And again, run this. So go back to here. I guess it's right here. And there's my hello. So now I know my JavaScript file is also communicating with my HTML. All right? And I don't know why that's still red. Thought I removed it, but oh, I bet you I didn't save. Problem I have a lot, so. File, save, and my color's gone. All right? So we've got time to write the HTML. So go back to your index.html file. Now, I'm going to put this in as a comment. You don't have to. But I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to actually go out to the internet, and I'm going to put down, I'm typing in common CSS breakpoint sizes. It was something like that, and hit enter. That's what I want. I took this literally and copied that into my program. All right? What I want you to understand is this. You don't have to do this, but what I want you to understand is this. What this is saying is if the size of your screen is between 320 pixels and 480 pixels, that'll capture most phones. If it's between 481 pixels and 768 pixels, it'll be tablet size. If it's between 769 and 1024, it's laptop size. If it's between 1025 and 1200, it's desktop size. If it's bigger than that, it's for a larger device. All right? And I only copied that in so I would remember the numbers. Again, you don't have to do that. But I'm just grabbing that, and I'm going to put it in. Oops, there we go. Come on. So right there, and I even put a comment in, because when I literally copy something from the internet, all right, there was no URL for that. But I typically will give attribution. So if anybody were to ever see this, it's not like I'm grabbing somebody else's stuff and acting like it's mine. All right? So I'm going to just paste that in. And as you see, common breakpoints. You don't have to do this. And because I'm a little anal about that, I did this. All right? Again, you don't have to do that because I'm going to give you the numbers right now. All right? Now, if you would please, just don't type for a second. I want you to watch because I'm going to put in a line of code and I'm going to copy it so I've got the same line 6 times. All right? So now I want you to understand a couple things. I'm going to put a div in here and it's going to have an ID. Okay? So notice I could just type in div. Boom, it puts in div for me. But another thing that's kind of cool about Emmet is my first ID that I put in here is going to be mobile-phone. You with me? Watch what happens if I just put in the # mobile-phone. hyphen phone, and I hit tab. See what it did? So it's just a little less typing that you have to do. If you're comfortable doing all that typing yourselves, by all means, do that. Doesn't hurt anything. All right? These divs are going to be really small. All we're going to put in here is an H1 tag in each one of them. I'm going to say H1, and here this will say mobile phone. All right? Now I've got it in there 6 times, so I've got to change each one of these. So the second one won't be a mobile phone. I've made it iPad-tablet, and that's what this says, iPad/tablet. The next one says laptop, and this says laptop. The next one says desktop, and so does this. And the last one, I just made it say widescreen. You could make it say extra large device. It doesn't matter. Finally, the last one, and this will take some explaining in a little bit, I'm just going to call this one landscape. And this one I'm going to call landscape. All right? Now, look on the screen, please. I'll come right back to this, I promise, but please look on the screen. Oops. There's our application right now, and I got to get that out of here too. Okay? Doesn't do a darn thing. There's just a bunch of H1 tags. That's what it should be doing right now. So if you save it and look at it in live server and that's what it looks like, that's good. All right? So let me go back. I think I did a file save. I must have, because it saw my changes. I don't want that alert anymore because that's a pain in the butt. But I am going to go to my script file. All right, we'll have our break in 5 minutes, but this is literally 6 lines long. Like I said, it's right here. So I'm going to give you this code right now. All right, then when we come back from the break, we're going to write the CSS. And it's not that long. It'll take us probably 20 minutes or so. I don't know. But we're going to write this one right now. Don't worry about what this is, what I called it, etc. But type it in, please, the way that I'm typing it in. So display current screen size. That's literally it. So that's all you got to type in. Again, remember, these are backticks here. And that backtick is up way in the left-hand corner of your screen, right underneath the key that says ESC for escape. And I forgot one thing in the HTML. I think it's like 2 lines, now that I look at this. So we're going to add that, then we're taking our break. Yes, I did. I'll give you a second. What's going to happen is, because I forgot to have us put this in our HTML file. We're going to have a button. When you click the button, it's going to figure out what the current width is of your screen size and the current height of your screen size. Are you with me? And it's going to show those in an alert box. All right, that's all this is doing. You already know what an alert is. You saw that alert with hello in it. We're telling it to look at the window and tell us what the width is, and look at our window and tell us what the height is. Does everybody have that? All right. We're going to go back then. Not a bad idea to do a file save on this too. All right. So we're all here. We're all got this in, right?
I just need that last line. Is that
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to the index.html file right now. Underneath these 6 divs or whatever we just put in, hit enter a couple times. Do you remember how to put in a blank line? Remember the tag for a blank line? What is it? BR. I'm going to actually just throw in 4 of those. BR, 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 BR. Because we're about to put a button in here and I want it to be moved down a little bit, all right, from these different headings. Okay? Now, you don't have to do this, but I put it into a paragraph. I'm not even sure why I did that, but I did. So, input type equal button. Sorry. There's got to be a tag at the beginning. It is a tag. So, type equal button. Value equal current screen size. This is probably going to run out of room with what I'm about to put in, so I'm going to put this on two or 3 lines. You don't have to do that. You can do that if you want to, but you don't have to. Now, on click, which means when I click this button, this is what I want to have happen. So I'm going to put in here display current screen size, paren, semicolon, and end my tag. I'll leave that up for a minute. Okay? What it literally means is we're putting a button in there. The text for the button should say current screen size. When we click the button, it should call that JavaScript function that we just wrote in the other file. So it should tell us our current width and our current height of our screen. Good time to do a file save all or a file save. All right, I just did a file save all. So the only thing we've got left to do after the break, after our break, all right, which we're going to take literally in about 1 or 2 minutes, but after that break, all right, we are going to go in and put in the CSS for this. All right, now, just so you see this, everybody look on the screen, please. I'm going to go back here. Here's the program, right? There it is. There's our button. See it? Now notice when I click it, what happens? It shows me my current, well, my height's screwed up, but I'll have to fix that. I'm not worried about it. I'll fix it. But the point is, the width is working. Now look on the screen, please. Would you agree that now, come on, let me do this. There we go. The screen's not as wide as it was. Would you agree with that? Now, of course, now that I did that, it is. But now if I click the button, it said 1200 before. Now it says 628. So it's going to keep track of our current screen size. All right, now I want to figure out why I got that error there, because it's something stupid that I did. So I'm going to go back and look at my script.js file. Let H. Oh, see this? That should be another curly brace. I apologize for that. That'll fix it. They should both be curly braces. I don't know why I put a bracket there, and you don't put a bracket in on the end either. That's what that should look like. That'll work now. All right, I'm going to leave that up here. It is 9:08, which is close enough to 9:10. So let's come back at 9:20. All right. Now, I'll help anyone who needs help, but first, I want to save this and get ready to do the next part of the taping. You with me? All right.